Hey everybody, a little bit different video today. We want to spend a little bit of time showcasing some of our viewers. Jim, Balent, Holly, Golightly, creators of Tarot, Witch of the Black Rose. For a while, Jim had been suggesting killing us. And by doing so, showing lots of love and perhaps putting an end to the cheap seats within one of his comics. Jim, formerly of DC Comics' Catwoman, responsible for creating one of her most iconic looks, and highly equally notable as well, working on the Archie series. Jim and Holly sent a care package to us a couple of years ago, and we first met. We met them a couple of years ago when they were guests at MegaCon in Orlando. We've since hung out with them a couple of times, and most recently up in their native land while we were on vacation in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and New York. Super swell people, great friends, like minds, and really fun to catch up with. The unfortunate thing about this video, we shot this via Skype and used a call recorder, which took half of my screen and took half of their screen and merges the two together. And unfortunately, Jim and Holly both on one side of the screen here, one side of the screen there, so it tended to kind of take the middle part of where they were sitting. So in a very Spinal Tap-ish type way, we lose both of them. I could say it was intentionally artistic to be able to have half of a face here and there, but it certainly wasn't. It's actually one more time that the cheap seats kind of looks technologically inept, and I do apologize for the way that the video ended up coming out. But we do cover a lot of things from comics to theme parks, so stay tuned. This was a lot of fun to do, and I actually felt like just hanging out person to person, and we look forward to doing more of this style video in the future. Without further ado, here's Jim and Holly.
Hello.
What's up, guys?
I know you.
Have we met before? How is it going? We're here with Jim Balent, Holly Golightly, friends, Cheap Seat Nation, BFFs forever, kindred spirits. I think the reason why we were getting together today is to talk about why you want to kill me so badly.
Well, it's so obvious. Anyone who's met you and Mary, I mean, come on.
Yeah, we're easily likable and killable.
Oh.
Usually shortly right after each other. Jim and Holly, responsible for Tarot. I'm going to hold this up. Oh, we actually have two to hold up. So we've got one that's kind of blinded by the light behind Jim as well. And we have this cover as well.
Oh, you got the incentive cover.
Ooh.
That's the rare one.
We had, these two showed up. We have more on the way from Midtown Comics. But within this comic, just to give folks an explanation, killing me.
Killing Mary.
Yep, Mary
also killing Mary.
Mary is dead as well. She's not back from the dead yet. We are immortalized now in ink, in comics. It's something I could never thank you guys enough for doing. Not necessarily killing me, but
well, I've noticed you show the death scene.
Yeah,
is that because of rating?
We've got a little gory action
you can
here
on your channel.
No, we can say whatever.
Good turning green.
So I'm gonna back up a little bit because I think, as usual, my interview skills are like all over the place. But I'm gonna give you a moment to give a little backstory about yourselves. Holly looks terrified now. It's not a crying moment yet.
Hey. Well, many moons ago. So my name is Jim Balent. Most people know me from drawing DC Comics Catwoman and some Batman back in the 90s. And this is Holly Golightly.
Hi, I'm also known as Holly G, and I work for Archie Comics. I did Sabrina the Teenage Witch, Josie the Pussycats, and Cheryl Blossom and all the other characters, too.
Right, so in the year 2000, we left those companies, and we started our own company called Broadsword Comics. It's right behind us. And I started a the flagship comic book is Tarot, Witch of the Black Rose. And it's been going on for many years, 20 years. And every now and then, just to sort of speed up time a bit, I like to draw friends and people I meet in my comic book, whether they're in the background or the main story. And just by chance, Holly and I, we watched The View from the Cheap Seats for years. We love you and Mary and Jess. We think you guys are really awesome. And it was just by a coincidence that I think it was last year, 2 years ago, we met you at MegaCon.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that's sort of our official meeting where we were appearing, Holly and I were appearing as guests. And lo and behold, Kyle, Mary, and Jess shows up as we were sitting in the Batmobile.
That's
so
right.
That was even cooler.
Yep. It was a Bat Jim moment.
That's right.
Yeah.
So we became friends.
Yeah.
We even met you guys in the park once or twice, I think, behind
our hiding spot. We're going to blow up the hiding spot.
Yeah.
Harry Potter.
Which is we're a secret anymore because they're putting that big roller coaster behind it.
Yes.
And so when the time came for me to draw this story, I needed a bunch of my friends that I could kill. And I thought of you and Mary right away. You're on top of my list. Who would I like to kill? Who's my friends? And so what was really cool about that, I wrote you guys a quick note. Both of you said yes, which I was really thrilled over. And the way the process went was I had a specific pose in mind. I would take a snapshot of myself, like being eaten by a monster or something, send it to Kyle and Mary and say, take a photograph of yourself in this pose. And then you guys would send me the reference back of photos, which was very interesting.
That whole part was really funny because when you sent the pictures to begin with, I thought for sure Holly took them because they were so well choreographed or modeled, and I was like, this is what Jim's looking for specifically. And we did our best, let's just say.
It was great. But yeah, I self-timered on my iPhone and, took that right shot. But I don't know what happened on your end. You told me you guys had a lot of fun trying to mimic those scenes.
There was hilarity ensued. Mary did not want to necessarily push. There was a lot of pushback of, I don't know if I could do this. So we attempted our best.
Yeah, I mean, basically, I'm going to just show the comic a bit. This was a typical scene here where we have Kyle and Mary, and I just wanted them to sort of be like, like watching this witch, which is Raven Hex. The storyline is actually Tarot, Witch of the Black Rose, but it's in Raven Hex #1, but it's also Tarot 122. And it's also part of our current Kickstarter that's happening. But what Kyle is talking about here is later on, I needed them to be in sort of these dramatic poses of sort of like, Kyle here being stabbed through the chest. And also I needed Mary to sort of have her head chopped off.
That's why she's not here now.
That's right.
It was a tough pose to enact without doing that, actually.
So, for you guys being, new to this whole modeling situation, you guys did great. Some of the poses were a bit stiff, and I think were quite funny. Especially when the direction was you're being eaten by a monster, and like Mary's always smiling in her pictures.
I think she was ecstatic.
Yeah, it was wonderful. You guys did great, and Holly, I penciled it and inked it. This is what the inks look like. So this is I draw on 11.5 by 17. There's good old Kyle and Mary. And here's your death scene. So I pencil it and ink it. And then what I'll do is I'll go into and I'll scan this into Photoshop and put in all the blacks. You'll notice there's an X here. That means just fill in the blacks. And then it gets over to Holly, and she gets to put all the blood and gore in you as she colors it.
Yeah.
So,
So
Holly,
take it
are you coloring on the computer, or are you drawing also on
Yes.
paper?
What happens is after the page that Jim just showed you, it's all prepped and all the blacks are put in. They get sent to our color assistant, Randy, who does something called color flatting, and she drops flat colors in, let's say, Mary's face, and the hair is red, just flat. Then she sends them back to me, and I render them out. I put the shading, I put the highlights, I put the blood, the special effects, all the fancy stuff. And because of Randy, I can get a lot of work done a lot quicker. So it's a process.
I mean, the artwork is just absolutely gorgeous, right? It's the one thing that jumps out initially. The color pops. It looks legitimately, like you're in a nighttime scene. The skeleton man.
I love color. And here's a little secret. I am a high functioning witch, and when I'm coloring, I'm putting a little bit of color magic in there too. So different colors mean different things, and there's a mood to it, and you'll see there's a lot of magic going on in there. So
It's gorgeous. I like
and
it.
this is our quality manager.
Panger.
Prince Pangerbon the Fluffy, first of his name.
Internet famous. More than the cheap seats.
From comic book, but I don't know if I guess Instagram. Catter days. He wants down.
So Matt, a little backstory into tarot itself. Can you give a little basis into what the comic is about? I mean, I've read this. I'm not going to spoil it for people. I want folks to be able to pick up the comic. It's gripping. I only live one issue at this point, so But
In that world, you never know.
Sure. But the basic story of Tara, Witch of the Black Rose, is it's this voluptuous red-headed witch who gets called upon by the goddess to become her sword maiden, and she is charged with keeping the balance between man and magic. She has an older sister whose name is Ravenhex, and she follows more of a dark path. She's not as balanced. She's filled with hatred because of her father dying at the hands of the townspeople. Tarot's more balanced. And so the series for the past 20 years was about Tarot and keeping the balance. The issue that you're in is the alternate path storyline, where it's sort of a what if or a Elseworld story. It's like, well, what if the goddess didn't choose Tarot, who's more balanced, but chose the older sister Ravenhex, who's more set on vengeance and more of a dark witch path. So this is a storyline about her getting the power, getting the sword from the goddess, and her being the sword maiden. So there's a lot of more violence in the book. There's more bloodshed. It's thanks to you guys, and it's a darker story. And so far, people have been loving the story so far.
How far out are the stories laid out at this point? Like, you have a story arc. Do you know where besides the start and the middle, is there a definitive path that you're going down, or is there potential for influences to change things along the way?
Yes to both questions, because to do a story arc, I need to sort of map it out in my head or on a piece of paper. And I do that also with thumbnails or storyboards. So yeah, there is a storyline that I follow. But yes, if something I find is more interesting, or something from the outside world influences me, or if I meet somebody who's really interesting, I can always insert them into the storyline if it doesn't deviate from my purpose of why I started the story. Yes, there's some wiggle room, and that's what's good about being your own editor and creator. You can actually, change things on the fly. But yes, there's always a path that I'm going down.
Okay. You mentioned before about the storied history of Catwoman, and if you guys have not seen Catwoman, we'll try to insert a shot somewhere here so you get the feel. We've seen Jim's Catwoman at least at cons, and I was trying to find a picture because I know I took a picture with somebody back in MegaCon probably 7-8 years ago or so, dressed as Jim's Catwoman. You left DC, and Holly, you left doing the Archie and Sabrina and other pieces to do Broadsword. Is there a bigger benefit to doing an indie book? Is it more preferable? What's the typical day like? Because I think folks just kind of assume they see something in a news rack or a comic book store, and they don't understand the effort behind the material that's being produced. Is it more rewarding?
Yeah,
all of the above.
Well, yeah, it's all the above. I think Holly and I have always been workaholics and self-starters, and even when you work for Marvel and DC, if you're not a self-starter, I don't think you'll last too long in the business because you're at home drawing all day. So you have to be motivated of what you're drawing. And the same thing with Tarot Witch the Black Rose. As I said, we've been doing this for 20 years. If we hated it, we wouldn't be doing it because it takes a lot of energy. I'm drawing 10 to 12 hours a day sometimes, and that's like 7 days a week sometimes. Holly too. I mean, she's doing incredible work not only on the creative side, but also running Broadsword.
Yeah, I mean, if you go to our website, jimbalent.com, I help design and I run it and make sure everyone gets their stuff. I mean, basically, it's Jim and I running the whole company. And especially with what's going on now, we work at home. Our whole home is our studio. Every room has a reason to create in or to help us create. And so you're literally getting like a couture comic because we do everything but print that comic. And if you are getting it from our website, that means we're also sending it to you. The only things that we don't do are print it, and then we have a distributor send it to the stores. But I've been an entrepreneur since I was 21, probably even younger. I remember having a lemonade stand on 69th Street, Manhattan. It gives me great joy to be able to create and then share it with people. I love it. And I think comics is probably the best way, the best vehicle for someone who has a story to tell and to share their abilities with, especially if they can draw. That really helps.
So with the distribution piece, and not only the distribution, but I would say, ingrained with your social media presence and the distribution point, you've got Kickstarters that you've done. Mm-hmm. The fan base seems so much more, I don't know if the appropriate word to say, like, connected to you guys. We talked about MegaCon before, and Jim literally always says he'll sign anything for anybody, and the line is ongoing the entire weekend, and there just seems to be more of a connected fan base, I think, for your product. With that, with the Kickstarters, do you want to talk about what you have going on now?
Sure.
Go for it.
Oh, okay. Well, gosh, I think I've done at least 13 Kickstarters.
Oh, the recent
one. Yeah, the recent one where it's right now. It's the alternate past, the Raven Hex Sword Maiden graphic novel. So it is what you're in. That's the first part of the graphic novel. And then the second part is the second part.
It'll be 48 pages.
That's right.
In total.
And Perfect Bound, which is a fancy name for the fancy spine, has no staples. So it is a beautiful graphic novel, glossy, and it's wonderful. And we do amazing pledge levels.
Yeah.
And we're already in stretch goals. And we have unusual offerings.
Which was really cool. Mary and myself got into the last Kickstarter, which, ended up involving, a really, I think it was a Sunday that we spoke for a long time, because one of the Kickstarter rewards was getting a reading from Holly via Skype at the time, which was phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal.
It was a lot of fun. Yeah, I'm glad you liked it.
And that's what I mean. I think a little bit more of bringing things together as a fan base, because you guys are available. The stuff that you're offering, even through the Kickstarter, is just unique. And I think it's more personable than anything that I'm seeing out there today.
Oh, cool. Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, we really like it. This is what it comes down to. If it wasn't for you and our readers, we wouldn't be here. And that's why, we both signed for free. And as you said, I always make statements. If you see me or us on the road and you want an autograph or just to say hi, we're there. We've actually done signings in the parks. We've met people on rides. We even laugh when we were going to the Star Wars ride and, walking through the Endor line, when you go on Star Tours.
Yep.
People from on the other side of the queue would reach over and want to take a selfie with us. So it's kind of fun to go, oh, wow, we were recognized on Endor. It's great. There was on the Jaws ride. There's a reader named Lisa McCartney. She is spazzy, as we know her. She goes to Halloween Horror Nights as much as she can, and it just so happens that one time we were there at the same time. So we did a book signing in our hotel room, and then we spent a couple hours, at Halloween Horror Nights. We even met you at Halloween Horror Nights, where, it was during October, but you and Holly were fighting Dementors the last time I think I saw you guys.
Yep.
But yeah,
we both have Deadly Hollows tattoos. There's a thing we share.
I wish mine was better.
Aww.
She got that in Edinburgh.
We got this on a whim at on Friday the 13th, where they were doing $13 tattoos. So that's what a $13 tattoo looks like.
So yeah, going back to the Kickstarter, we feel personable with everyone because they're part of Broadsword Comics in a way. If it wasn't for them, we wouldn't exist. So with the Kickstarter, it's sort of like if you have your favorite band, who's offering this new album, right, but you get to sort of get the album signed, or you get an exclusive song. That's how we view the Kickstarter. Is like, okay, how do we reward the people who put us here? Yeah. So check us out.
Yeah, I have some donation spots open, I think.
We'll put a link to it down below too. So we'll put all of your socials and stuffs. I'm going to ask a bunch of questions that you probably get asked a million times. So it's like our opener.
I know.
This is the point where everyone's crying. No, I'm just kidding. What got you into comics? What were your initial influences?
You go first.
Oh, okay. It's once again growing up. You're 5 years old. You see Spider-Man on TV. You see Adam West on TV. I was hooked with Spider-Man and Batman from day one. Growing up, we didn't have a lot of money, but every now and then a comic would come my way. And I just fell in love with the adventures of Spider-Man or Batman. And without knowing it, I would just start drawing the characters. And because each comic book had a cliffhanger at the end, I wouldn't have the next issue, so I would continue on the story in like my bedroom and continue drawing the Batman story or the Spider-Man story. And then that and the amazing Marvel characters and DC characters just growing up just blew me away. How about you?
How about me? I read comics as a wee girl. I read Richie Rich. I had a crush on Aubrey. I'm weird. I like Little Dot. I like the Archies a lot. But when I was a teenager, my best friend's mother's boyfriend, I had a crush on. I was like 13, and he was a lawyer on Watergate, believe it or not. And he was sitting in his study and he was reading comic books. So there you go. Lawyer, Watergate, loved comic books. And he was reading Howard the Duck, Red Sonja, and Conan. And I'm like, what are you reading? And he said he gave me a Red Sonja. And I totally forgot about teenage crushes. I found comic books. I just thought it was amazing. So I just became starved and read them all, and I'm a huge Star Wars fan, so then expanded into Star Wars, and I love the Warren comics of Vampirella and all horror. I was more into horror, fantasy, some romance. I like Fat Freddy's Cat. It was funny. But I really wasn't much into the superheroes except for Spider-Woman. I loved Spider-Woman because she didn't want to be a superhero. I loved that. She was awesome. And so I always loved comic books. It was like this. I'm an only child, and it was like Friends, And I'd just sit in my room and read comic books. I was weird kid.
So when you mention fantasy comics like Red Sonja and Jim, I mean the style for Raven Hex and Tarot in general, it kind of harkens back to when Mary and I were up in Pennsylvania earlier this year. Jim gave us the tip about the Frank Frazetta Museum. We went there. We talked to Frank Jr. and shot some pictures and videos and all around. Had a fantastic experience. Was Frank a big influence for the both of you?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
For us both. It's so funny because we didn't know each other until we were like 30 years old, and we had so many similar tastes.
Yeah, I was in love with Red Sonja. Frank Thorne's Red Sonja was my Red Sonja, and as well as hers.
Yep.
So obviously Tarot influenced the look, or Red Sonja, his Red Sonja influenced Tarot's look. But yeah, going back to Frank Frazetta, we're friends with Billy Frazetta. We've seen Frank Frazetta. We went to his museum. It's amazing, and every time we go, you're in awe. And you've been there, so I was so glad that you and Mary got the tour even.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Yeah. Oh, and just so you know why you got that care package, I think it's important. It's like, as you hear, Jim and I work an awful lot. So we're constantly creating and putting out into the universe and to people, and it's our pleasure that they are enjoying themselves. But we need, as I call it, input, other people's creativity, other people's talent. And when we stumbled on your YouTube channel, we're both Star Wars fans, we're both Disney fans, Universal, especially horror fans. And we found you. We appreciated your earnest love. And we could tell you were just so real about why you were doing this. And it meant a lot to us. And we got so much fun watching you. We couldn't wait for your next video. So hence the thank you care package.
I'm like ready to blush now. And I think we've said this before, because I think our initial conversations were like, you couldn't possibly be, that real or genuine. And I don't ever know what to say. Like when people question, are you really like that, or are you genuine and things? But like, when we started the channel and even continuing, we've primarily done things to document like what we've done. And I think that what's happened, like over quarantine time, we've spent so much time watching back things from the last 4 or 5 years that we're able to say like, oh, remember when we did this, and like, oh yeah, we pulled that up, and it's easy to catalog. It's basically YouTube is an easy way to find things by keyword and say like, oh, we did this in the past, and I remember that day, and it's beyond pictures, but it's such a pleasure to be able to share it with other people and then see like how it's impacting them and get their stories about what they've done and everything. So it's been a really fantastic ride.
Yeah, there's no question that you're not genuine. I mean, you feel it. And I'm also a witch, so that's my professional opinion of scoping you out. But no, we appreciate it. And to be honest, when you do the sports, I kind of like getting another cup of coffee.
There's not a lot of that this year, so.
That's true. So thank you. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. A couple last things to ask you if you're not ready to fall asleep already. But
no, it's beautiful.
So
right.
Before I get into work that you've done with KISS, who is the best member of KISS, and why is it Gene?
What a leading question. Well, it sounds like you should answer that one. Well, yes. Go ahead.
You did work with KISS, but you didn't inject any of your blood into the work.
That you know of. Yes, what Kyle's talking about is, yes, I'm a huge KISS fan since way back in the day, in the 70s. I do carry a KISS Army card with me, and I have used it as identification in several places. Most of them don't take it as my official identification. I don't know why. But yes, Holly and I have met them backstage several times. And at one point, Gene Simmons, as you know, he is to comics. And he knew I worked on Catwoman and some Batman. And he himself has his own comic book called The Dominatrix. And at the time, he knew my art. I also gifted him some art. Every time I would see them, I'd gift the band some art. And what happened was that at one particular show, backstage, he said, "Hey, I'm looking for an artist to do a cover. Would you be available?" Of course, I'm going to be available. And I wanted to. So I actually did 2 covers for his Dominatrix. And then later on, through Dynamite Comics, I was asked to do a few KISS covers for the KISS comic book, which is like a dream come true, because as a kid in the 70s, when KISS teamed up with Marvel, that was like the biggest thing in my life. And I was like, someday I want to do this. And, once again, thanks to the readers out there who put me in this position of being a professional artist, I was able to make that dream come true. And, now when we see Paul Stanley or Gene Simmons and the rest of the guys, they recognize us. And going to San Diego Comic-Con, Paul Stanley comes up to us and talks to us just like...
In the hotel.
Yeah, just to say hi.
And tell us about the pizzas he made.
That's true.
I like Paul.
So you're a Paul person.
Well, I was never a KISS fan growing up.
That's true.
Yep.
I'm a new wave punk rockabilly.
Well, yeah, just to interrupt Holly here. I mean, Holly has been in Blondie videos.
I know.
So
that's tell everybody.
That's where her music comes from. Mine has always been KISS. Okay, going back.
Yeah. But I call myself a KISS wife, like on the Family Guy kind of thing. But I do love going to the concerts. There's no question. I I love the way that they treat Jim. They're always very polite and wonderful, and it's really a joy, going, and I enjoy it. But I'm so sensitive about calling myself a Kiss. It's not, I didn't grow up with it. You know what I mean? All the mean girls like Kiss, so I like the Who,
Yeah, but Holly also works for bands herself. She works for the English Beat. She's done their logos, T-shirt designs.
And Howard Jones. I love Howard Jones.
Howard Jones is phenomenal.
He is. Thank you. He's so great. So, but I just think it's cool that, we're in a hotel and we hear like, hey, and it's Paul Stanley and he knows us and he's telling us and showing us pictures of the new pizza he made. And it's just like, and we're just like, and I'm thinking.
Does he walk into the lobby and say like, is it hot in here?
I like him. I enjoy his energy. He's very warm and personable. But I can respect that you guys are Gene men. You know what I mean?
I was always.
But if I had my brothers,
I was always Gene.
I'd hang with
and now, like, I don't know, like over the last year, I'm leaning more Paul.
Ooh.
Well, I like both of them. I think the band's great. Working with them is wonderful.
Yeah.
And just sort of, meeting them has always been great. Anyone who has not seen them, I would say go see them. This is the End of the Road tour. Check them out.
When it's safe.
When it's safe.
Yeah. And Eric is funny. Eric is very funny. Like when we did the back stage meet and greets, he's always cracking jokes.
So you're fine with the with Eric and Tommy. I think we talked about this before offline, but I'm fine with them too. I mean, obviously, I love the original lineup, but I mean, Eric's been with the band for like 22 years or something. Like it's an awful long time.
Yeah, right. I literally have met, I think everyone in Kiss. Peter Criss, Ace Frehley, Tommy Thayer, Eric Singer. They're all great musicians and great people to sort of sit down and talk with. So I've never been to a Kiss show that I haven't enjoyed.
No, they're always amazing.
Yeah. So I'm not one of those camp guys who says, you gotta like them to a certain point and then stop.
Yeah.
I literally like what they're putting out each time.
And we saw you right after we saw Adam Ant.
You did.
We went to Voodoo Donuts.
I blew you guys up too by posting something on Instagram, I think, and then you ran into. We have a mutual follower that ran into you at Adam Ant, right? I think.
Oh yeah, that's right. One of your someone who follows you and us saw your post.
Oh yeah.
And they tracked us down. Yeah, that's right.
And that's why you killed us.
That's why you're on top of the list, buddy. You just made the list.
So we can talk about theme parks because we're leaning towards. There's always a preference, I think, with fanboys when you're going to upset like half of the universe now by saying, "Are Disney or Universal?" Which is the preference?
I'm both, dude. I don't do preferences because like I'm Star Wars, Star Trek. I love both. I'm not into that, and I don't understand that energy. I think joy and happiness are one big ball of yay. So,
amen.
People relax.
Yeah, both the parks, like Holly mentioned before, is 24/7. We're always outputting, and the parks to us was something where we'd get something back from these parks. Just the buildings themselves, and the rides are great too, but the theming just blows us away every time.
Yeah, I mean, I have nostalgia longer, obviously, with Disney. My grandparents took me to the opening year of Disney World. So I was there the first year it was open. And so I have I mean, the reason I'm here now, the way I look, the way I think, it's because of Disney. Blame them. And but we've gotten to see Universal grow, So to me, Universal is Disney's love child, and it's all. I mean, I have a dream of being able to go to every park around the world.
Sure.
Because on YouTube we get to see what's going on in Hong Kong or Japan or Paris, Shanghai, whatever. And, some people dream about going to Paris to see the Louvre. I want to go see the Phantom Manor. Screw the Louvre. I want to see the Manor.
Well, even watching your podcast today where you talked about Halloween Horror Nights, and you talked about how you started way back. Holly and I, we talked about our first experience with Halloween Horror Nights and how little of a crowd it was.
Oh, yeah.
On how they allowed you to sort of stay in the park until the time was right. And there was times where we sat in Amityville, where the shark used to be, and we watched the fog roll in from all these hidden fog machines and see the clowns come out. That to me was amazing back then.
So we feel lucky.
And we're thinking it was ICU.
ICU was our first one. Yeah, where they had to change the icon because there was some really bad stuff that went down, and it was just the big eyes. ICU.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
okay.
That was our first one.
Do you have a favorite ride across the parks?
In Universal, you're talking
altogether
about?
I mean, for me, I'd say favorite ride in any of the parks that we've gone to, and I'm not saying ranking roller coasters or anything, but just pure enjoyment is the Haunted Mansion.
Yes.
Do you guys have a favorite ride yourselves?
Well, yeah, with going to Universal first. I mean, the one side of the park we love the Forbidden Journey ride.
Yeah.
That's amazing. We even like Ollivanders. I know it's not a ride, but I'd say definitely, check out Ollivanders. But rides range from, yes, the Haunted Mansion. We even like the People Mover.
Yeah, we love the People Mover.
Remember when you just walked onto the People Mover? What happened?
The last time that we went to the park, I think that was my big gripe in that video too. What is happening here? Why? There's all of a sudden there's a 25-minute wait for the People Mover thing.
It's crazy. No, yeah, the Haunted Mansion is hands down, I would say, my favorite ride for so many reasons, and mainly because, not even mainly, but the strangest one I think is because I was 7 when I got on it. I didn't know what happened to you after you passed over, because there was no real religion in my home, and I saw movies about stuff, but no one really talked about that. And that was the first time someone said, well, after you die, this is where you go. And I thought, remember, this is a 7-year-old brain.
Sure.
I thought, oh, this is it. This is where I'm going to go when I die. And I know that's a very strange impression to have, but I really thought that I would be one of those dancers on the ballroom, after I passed over. I said, that's it. I get that spot. So it means a lot to me.
And you were there opening year.
Yeah. And we also got
engaged
in the Haunted Mansion.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What, in front of the ride?
No, in front of the bride.
Oh, in front of the bride. Okay.
Yeah. Because even though I was enthralled with the house, the mansion, I was terrified at the same time. And I have a fear of heartbeats. And when the mansion first opened, the bride to me was so much more scarier because she was see-through and you could see her heart beating and the blood pulsing through her body. And I thought I was going to just lose my mind and in fear. And so that sort of impressed on me. So every time I go into the mansion, we go near the bride, I would start getting kind of scared. And he thought that was really funny. And then one year, because I would always sort of grab him, one year as I was turning to grab him because we were going in front of the bride, he proposed to me and he asked me to be his ghost bride, and I went, "Blah," and
And then we quickly went
That was the
upside
little
backwards,
answer.
falling off the roof.
that's what happened. And then we both were afraid the ring was gonna fall, and he created a ring for me. See, can you see it has like a bat wing
Oh,
on it? Yeah. So.
this is an extra
And,
sweet story now that I'm hearing.
Yeah, I actually drew a comic strip about it. But yeah, I couldn't talk. But yeah, I just cried a lot later.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Because you weren't in the car.
No.
It was only-
These days you have to
Yeah.
you'd have to propose and also hold a camera over here so that you're recording
There
everything
were
at the same time.
iPhones when we got. There were no iPhones when we got engaged. It was in 1999.
I could have sketched it. but
Yeah.
It's not the same.
Like a courtroom scene, like where everything is sketched after the fact.
I did do a doodle. Yeah. It looked like a booger coming out of my nose. Because I was crying.
So if in a perfect world, and we were
Yeah.
not worrying about current events impacting like Halloween Horror Nights, based off of what you've heard so far, is there something that you would be of particular interest to you guys out of the lineup of houses so far this year?
Go ahead.
The Bride.
The Bride. Both of you?
Yeah. She's. No, Halloween Horror Nights. I heard that they were going to do a bride house,
Yeah.
the Bride of Frankenstein, right?
That's the word. That's the word on the
Yeah.
street.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when we went last year, the Universal Monster House was one of our favorites.
Yeah.
And
That's it. I mean, it's that big. All we have to say is that.
to that, in this issue, I need to go back again because I noticed the little details. I'm going to see
Aw.
if I can hold this up to see if you guys can see the shirt that I'm wearing that Jim drew as I'm dropping the pumpkin. I don't know where it's on the camera at this point.
Okay, yeah. What about it?
Got a little creature action happening, it looks like.
Oh, yes.
Yes, and I was wondering if you knew that. Aha! I'm looking it up myself. Hold on. Yes, Creature from the Black Lagoon. And if you look on Mary's, she has the Bride of Frankenstein on hers.
Oh, that I
You
did
just-
notice. See, now you're making me look bad. I just said there's all this attention to detail. But yeah, I see the bride's hair.
Yep. Very good. And also your logo's on the jacket, and as well
I
as
saw
your
that
hat.
on the hat. It's just too cool. It is too cool.
So if you lose listeners, it's our.
I'll blame you specifically.
Right.
So,
We have to mention Rise of the Resistance.
Oh, I forgot.
Rise.
oh yeah,
Wow.
I think I know we were talking about Halloween Horror Nights. I do apologize, but I have to say how lucky I feel that we did get to experience both West and East. And the only reason we did West is Jim surprised me and brought me after we set up our booth at San Diego Comic-Con early and quick. I thought we'd just go out for dinner, but he took us all the way to Disneyland. And we went to back then Rise wasn't open, but Millennium Falcon was.
yep.
And then we were so lucky. We just got an email for like a special price to fly down in was it March?
I thought it was February.
February. And then we got on the Rise.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
We woke up 4:00 in the morning and got our tushes down and waited, and we got on, man, and that was just amazing.
The funny thing about Rise of the Resistance now that I'm not sure that it's not like the ride would ever lose its luster, because I think that ride is just, mind blowing, right? But it's not just the ride, it was the queue, it was everything. And I don't know if like when the parks reopen, if they're able to recreate that, because you have so many spots where you're stopped, and with social distancing now, you can't really sit in that room and watch the briefing for from Poe and from Ray, etc. So I'm not sure if it'll just be a walkthrough. Like, I feel like we were lucky to see it the way that it was designed to be seen.
I agree. I mean, I would get emotional if I think about it, because it was amazing. Again, huge Star Wars fan, and it was so good, and it was just by chance that we did that.
Yeah, but this is going to be temporary, even if it lasts a year or two. They'll
go back eventually.
Okay.
Yeah.
One day.
Right.
We hope.
Yeah.
But yes, if you're talking about going to Disney or Universal for the first time, and this is your first time there, yes, people will miss out on what was.
Right.
There's still a lot to see,
yes,
but it's not the same as it was last year.
The hot chocolate at Batu.
I know you told me that, and I never was able to get back over there before the world ended to be able to have the hot chocolate.
Yeah. Well, that's something that hopefully will not change, because that was amazing. And then all you have to do is drink hot chocolate. It's so good. It's like drinking warm chocolate cake batter. And that's a good thing.
That made it sound less good.
Well, okay, how about like a lava cake? Lava cake.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you and I have had different experiences with cake batter.
All right. So, cake batter aside, to wrap the interview, any last comments? Plugs? Suggestions?
Sure. Well, I want to say thank you for inviting us on your show. View from the Cheap Seats is something we look forward to every day that you post, and you've entertained us for many years. So I'm honored that you agreed to be in my comic book and allow me to kill you.
I am thrilled.
And this won't be the last time. I'm sure you guys will appear later on in different storylines.
That's phenomenal. I'm going to put all of the links to the socials, the websites, all of the good stuff down below. And if you guys are interested in comics and you have not checked this out, you owe it to yourselves to do so. Please do so. And there's many covers, not comics, but how many covers altogether for this issue?
I think
for the stores,
A, B, C, D, E, F, 6. But not for the stores.
Not for the stores.
On our store, you could get all 6. There are some exclusive covers you can only get on our website.
Correct. But in the stores, there's only 2. And
3.
Or 3, that's right.
Wait,
sorry.
No, they could get the photo cover 4.
Okay.
But it's not there yet.
It might be by the time that this is uploaded. Or somebody watches it.
Sure, and the books do sell out quickly.
Yeah.
So
come to our website.
Yeah, go to the website, or as soon as your store gets not free comic book day, when your store, the comic book store, gets their first shipment in, it's best to go that day if you don't have a pull list.
Wednesday usually.
Right, and
Comic
check
Wednesdays.
out Witch of the Black. It's Tarot, Witch of the Black Rose, and pick it up and you'll see Kyle get killed and Mary beheaded.
Yes.
Awesome.
Good clean fun.
Pleasure talking to you guys. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. Thank you very much for all of your likes, comments, and subscriptions. If you like this type of video, leave us a comment below. If you have additional follow-up questions that we can get Jim and Holly to answer, try to leave a comment below as well. If you have suggestions on what other types of interviews or hangouts you guys might be interested in, let us know that as well. Treat others the way you want to be treated. Have a great day. We'll see you guys. I won't be happy unless everybody's crying, including me. but mostly me. It's just so you should know, like the origin of cheap seats was like, I bet we could do this stuff that other people were doing at the time, but it would be so rudimentary or unskilled because we don't have that capability, you know, of learning different technology. And you reach that point, I think, where there's just that leveling off of, you know, teaching an old dog new tricks.